Welcome to the channel. Spoilers ahead, so be careful. I just want to appreciate our amazing channel members. The manhwa begins in a snowy mountain range. A man is yelling at someone, saying, "You're a fool. Did you really think you could escape?" Then, he asks, "Where's the ancient relic?" The man starts laughing and says, "You're idiots." As he laughs, we see that his arms are missing. He looks at them and says, "You really think I'd tell you?" The men start getting angry, but one of them stays calm, saying they need to call the main team first. They start using a crystal radio, saying, "We've got the Northern Phantom," confirming our coordinates. The calm guy is surprised that the Northern Phantom is still alive, even without arms. He wonders why he's so determined to get the same relic as the Emperor. Another guy chimes in, saying, "He's just trying to be a pain. We've had to deal with him for so many days. Before the main team arrives, let's have some fun with him and make him pay for all the trouble he's caused." The men are planning something sinister, and as they continue to taunt him, they warn Zeke to prepare for torture. To decide who goes first, they flip a coin. Just as the coin is in the air, Zeke shocks them by biting onto one of his severed arms, reattaching it. With a fierce determination, he says, "I won't let it end like this. I won't do nothing." We finally learn his name, Zeke Draker, the first failed awakener from the Draker household. Zeke reveals his past, saying he was born into the powerful Dragonslayer household, but his body couldn't use aura, leading to his failure to awaken. This failure led to him being treated like trash and forced out of his own household. He shares that this rejection drove him to become stronger just to survive. A quote echoes in his mind, "If all you pursue is strength, you'll have nothing in the end." But Zeke charges forward, sword in hand, proving his determination. The coin finally lands, revealing heads, and in an instant, Zeke dashes past one of his captors, beheading him. Zeke scoffs at the quote, saying it's just an excuse used by the strong. With a fierce glare, Zeke turns to the other man, dashes forward, and slices his sword in half before cutting him down the chest. Zeke declares, "The strong will trample the weak and take what's theirs. That's the truth of this world." He reattaches his other arm and says, "Guess I won't be escaping." The men are stunned, asking, "What the hell is that? And is he some kind of freak?" They joke that cutting his head off might kill him, but Zeke fearlessly charges at them. The group surrounds him with a sword formation, but Zeke fights back. The scene cuts to later, showing Zeke's victorious but fatal stand. He's killed everyone, but at the cost of his own life, with multiple swords lodged in his back. Zeke starts coughing up blood, accepting his fate. "Looks like I'm running out of time," he says. Despite failing to take revenge, he's proud to have stolen the Emperor's desired relic, a dragon statue carved into a gem. As he holds the relic, he apologizes to someone named Alicia. Blood drips from his nose onto the dragon carving, releasing a golden aura. A status window appears, revealing that Zeke's strong will can awaken an ancient power. A mysterious robed figure emerges, embracing Zeke. "Will you accept?" they ask, as the soul of an elder dragon is revealed to be connected to Zeke's unwavering determination. Zeke, on the brink of death, wonders why he's hearing strange voices. The mysterious figure keeps asking if he'll agree, and Zeke sarcastically says, "Fine, sure. Just shut up." The status window confirms Zeke's agreement and starts a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The scene shifts to a younger Zeke, who's narrating the story. He's standing in front of a mirror, touching the glass in disbelief. "I went back in time," he says, struggling to wrap his head around it. "It's hard to believe. I can still feel the pain of those swords in my back." Zeke realizes that the place looks familiar because it's the cradle, the training school of the Draker household. The Draker family is one of 3 powerful households founded by Tarakan Draker, who saved the continent by defeating the evil dragon Bahamut 1,000 years ago. As descendants of the Dragonslayer, the Drakers have a natural blessing of aura, making it easy for them to awaken and become knights. But Zeke was the exception. The status window reappears, announcing that the administration system is restarting. Zeke jolts upright in bed, wondering what new message he's about to receive. The status window continues to update, saying that Zeke's soul has been confirmed and aligned. It announces that he's received the Elder's will and gained authority over part of the system. A flurry of screens appears before Zeke, who marvels at the magic video-like things. He wonders if it's all connected to the artifact. The screens reveal a low-rank status window, showing Zeke's class as healer, a rare designation. He also discovers a draconian skill that requires 10 points to unlock. Zeke instinctively pushes his hand through the screen and navigates through the menus with ease. Just like magic videos, he says, surprised by the familiarity. As Zeke examines the status window, he's puzzled by the term class skill written in the ancient Draconic language. He recalls his master explaining that in the past, people categorized themselves into classes based on their abilities. Each class had unique skills, and as a healer, Zeke should be able to use healing skills. Zeke remembers the intense training he endured after awakening, which almost cost him his life. But according to his status window, he's already a healer. Curious, Zeke decides to test his abilities, and a bright light begins to form in his hand. He reflects on his past life, remembering that he became a healer in his 20s, after the Ether Hall was unlocked. With closed eyes, Zeke focuses his energy, and a purple mist envelopes him. Zeke focuses intensely, then opens his eyes, exclaiming, "I knew it! My Ether Hall is already unlocked." He realizes that despite his physical body being reset, he's retained all his skills and memories from his past life. Compared to his pre-regression self, Zeke is now at a significant advantage. To utilize this, he needs to assess his current abilities. Just then, someone knocks on the door, asking to enter. Zeke is startled, and the voice continues, "No use pretending you're not there." Zeke panics, wondering how to turn off the status screen, which he hasn't finished reading. The man announces his entry, and Zeke yells, "Wait!" But the man ignores him, entering the room. "Can't believe you're not ready yet," the man says, eyeing Zeke. "What are you thinking?" Zeke meets his exclusive servant, Decker, who seems annoyed. Zeke asks, "Prepared for what?" and realizes Decker can't see the status window, which is a relief. Decker's demeanor darkens, and he asks if Zeke seriously doesn't know where they're headed. Zeke recalls being intimidated by Decker in his youth, and despite having a 32-year-old's mind, his younger body still feels fear. The status window announces that Zeke is activating his composed mind class skill. His thoughts clear, and his nervousness disappears. Zeke finds the skill convenient, as it automatically refreshes his mental state. Decker scolds Zeke, saying he's already explained the importance of the event multiple times. Zeke claims he's listening, but a flashback reveals a disturbing scene: Zeke's own blood on the floor. Decker mentions the pancratium, an evaluation test. Zeke explains that all Drakers undergo training at the cradle from age 7. For 5 years, they endure strict basic training. The instructors assess students through annual competitions, including sword fights and the brutal pancratium, which has no rules. Instructors choose opponents, but students can also choose their own opponents if both parties agree. The intense battles often result in injuries or even fatalities. The pancratium competition determines the students' class placement within the academy, leaving them no choice but to fight with all their might. Their instructor, Pan Mark, addresses the students, reminding them that today is the day of the pancratium and the final part of their evaluation. The students respond in unison, "Yes, sir." Pan Mark notices their enthusiasm and decides to begin immediately. The students shout, "Yes, sir," again. However, some students exchange skeptical glances, whispering about Zeke's presence. They recall his humiliating defeat last year and wonder why he didn't give up. They question how someone like him can be part of the direct Draker bloodline. Meanwhile, Zeke is aware of their conversations. Panmark calls upon 2 students, Aaron and Gother, to step forward. The 2 students face each other, and with a wave of his hand, Panmark signals them to begin the fight. One student charges at the other, throwing a punch, but the opponent counters with a kick to the chin. Zeke yawns, commenting that the fight is already overdue to the first student's poor defense. Aaron wins, and Zeke thinks to himself that he used to be intimidated by these fights as a kid, but now he sees them as insignificant. A student notices Zeke yawning and starts laughing, cracking his knuckles. Soon, it's Zeke's turn to fight. Panmark asks Zeke and his opponent, Leon, if they're ready. Zeke recognizes Leon as the guy who was eyeballing him earlier. Leon mocks Zeke, saying he's back for another beating. Zeke recalls their previous fight, where Leon severely injured him. Zeke realizes that Leon has been his opponent every year and suspects that Leon has been manipulating the matches. Despite this, Zeke never complained, as his household believes that overcoming dirty tricks is essential to becoming a true Dragonslayer. Zeke wonders why his cousin, someone so dishonest, has to be his opponent. Zeke thinks back to his past life, where he never met his siblings, but had over a dozen cousins who loved to bully him. Leon says, "I've got to give it to you, it's really brave of you to come out here after what happened last time. Or maybe you just didn't learn your lesson because you're so stupid." Zeke's composed mind skill kicks in, and he says, "It's been a while since I had to listen to such childish insults, and I'm not going to be nice if you call me that again." Leon asks, "What are you going to do?" Putting his hand on his head, and calling Zeke an inferior piece of shit. Zeke immediately punches Leon, activating his critical strike skill, and sends him flying. After the punch, Zeke receives a warning that if he misses, he'll be countered. Leon screams, clutching his face, while Zeke examines his hand, saying, "I only meant to knock him out, but the skill got activated when I punched like usual." Zeke's ether hull glows around his hand. Panmark intervenes, asking Zeke what he's doing, since he attacked before the start was announced. Zeke smirks, saying, "Who's going to wait for that on the battlefield? The ones who hit first have the advantage." Panmark breaks into cold sweats, uneasy about Zeke's bloodlust. Leon insists, "I'm fine." But Panmark is unsure, noticing Leon's blood pooling on the floor. Leon, still bleeding from his nose, tells Zeke to continue the fight, saying, he's going to make sure that Trash knows his place. Zeke retorts, "I think he's the one that's too stupid to learn his lesson." Panmark intervenes, telling Zeke to get ready, and then waves his hand, saying begin. Leon charges at Zeke, who starts throwing punches. But Leon takes the hits easily, saying, "At first, I was scared because of the initial punch, but his fists don't hurt at all." Leon continues, and if he just puts up his guard, he's no threat to him. What he does have to be careful of is his left-hand counter. As Zeke throws the counter, Leon ducks and grabs Zeke's knee and back, saying, "It was too obvious." Leon tries to flip Zeke over, saying, he's about to teach him his lesson. But Zeke lands a crushing blow, leaving Leon shaken. Panmark is stunned, watching Leon struggle, and looks at Zeke in amazement, saying, "There's no way. The combat IQ on this kid is insane." Panmark thought Leon had the upper hand when he dodged Zeke's counterattack. But Zeke quickly kneed Leon's chin and broke free. Panmark blames Leon for letting his guard down, thinking he had Zeke beat. Panmark is impressed by Zeke's calm demeanor, wondering, is this really the same Zeke Draker that everybody else knows? Leon feels a gut-wrenching sensation, thinking, why can't I do anything? Leon thinks he needs space to backpedal, but Zeke quickly closes in with a powerful thigh kick. As Leon loses balance, he wonders how Zeke is so strong despite his small frame. Leon manages to regain his footing and throws a punch. Meanwhile, Zeke is relieved he controlled his strength this time. His heightened sense of skill activates, allowing him to see Leon's punch in slow motion. Zeke dodges the punch, feeling a familiar sensation. Now that he's mastered controlling his ether, he effortlessly maneuvers around Leon's attacks. Zeke seizes the opportunity, preparing to throw Leon. Using Leon's momentum against him, Zeke slams him into the ground, shattering the arena. Panmark and the students are stunned, wondering what just happened. Zeke continues, using his precise stab skill to elbow Leon in the chest, cracking his sternum. The skill targets the enemy's weak point for critical damage. Zeke raises his hand, saying, even an idiot like him needs to learn his lesson. He imbues aura into his hand, and Leon weakly says stop. But Zeke ignores him, punching Leon repeatedly until he stands up, his hands and Leon covered in blood. Zeke says, this is the consequence of fucking around and finding out. He adds, my head feels a lot better now that I've sweated a bit, and I can recognize some of the people here. Zeke tells the stunned onlookers, stop just staring. If you have something to say to me, come down here. A student stands up, laughing, and says, I choose Zeke as my opponent because I've got something to say. Zeke recognizes him as Jason Verde, another cousin. Zeke says, that's fine, but you alone is too boring. He calls out to Jason's servant, Liam Stone, saying, join him too, that'll make it a fair fight. Jason asks, did you just insult me? Leon chimes in, of course, dumbass. Jason gets angry at the insult. Jason and Liam step onto the stage. Panmark warns Zeke, don't do anything until I give the go. Zeke smiles, saying, it's interesting to see you again. He thinks to himself that Liam will one day be known as the Mercenary King. In his past life, Liam was Jason's servant and attended the cradle in the academy. However, as a distant relative, he was left behind in his education. He begged to join the prestigious Valhalla Academy but ended up joining the Knight Order of Biranen instead. After Biranen fell, Liam became a mercenary. During chaotic times, people flocked to the strong, and Liam's experience earned him the title of Red Knight. He founded the Stone Mercenaries, united 3 large mercenary groups, and became known as the Mercenary King. As the Empire hired the Stone Mercenaries, Liam entered the Continental Wars. I faced him as a foe, along with the Northerners. But this time, things will be different. As soon as Panmark says start, Jason tries a surprise attack. But Zeke catches his fist, saying, I told you a minute ago to come at me together. Jason asks, do you really think I'll just play along with your cheap tricks? He attempts an overhead kick but feels pain in his leg and creates some distance. Zeke blocks the kick with his elbow, saying, you should have looked properly before kicking. Jason can't help but glance down at his leg. Zeke takes advantage, running forward and saying, can't believe you're looking away again in a fight. He imbues his fist with aura, and Jason raises his hands to block. Zeke mocks him, saying, you seem a little too scared. He goes for a low kick, targeting the same spot he injured earlier, saying, couldn't even predict that feint. Zeke explains that's why he told Jason to come at him together. After kicking Jason, Zeke quickly moves back and lands a punch, making Jason spit up blood. As Jason falls, Zeke says, you're not enough. Jason calls out to Liam, kill this asshole. Liam, standing across the arena, starts to take his hands out of his pockets. Zeke asks, how is this a 12-year-old when he's built like that? Zeke thinks to himself that Liam's reach is going to be a problem. If I let him attack first, I won't be able to do anything. As Liam prepares to attack, Zeke charges forward, using his aura to speed up. He starts throwing jabs, saying, I need to take the lead. Zeke and Liam are all over the arena as Zeke uses his slash skill, unleashing a flurry of attacks that interfere with Liam's vision. The other students are stunned, saying, this is insane. Even Panmark is surprised, commenting, it's only natural they'd react like this, since they've never seen anything like it before. He's impressed by Zeke's northern fist fighting technique, which is rare in the Midlands where swords dominate. Panmark wonders how Zeke learned it. Zeke, however, is struggling, feeling throbbing pains all over his body. He says, I can't believe how out of shape my body is. I'm getting winded just from this. He's also concerned about Liam's massive physique, which seems to be withstanding all his attacks without effort. Zeke recalls Liam being more aggressive in his Mercenary King days. Zeke's hands start bleeding, and he says, my body is reaching its limits. He decides to take down Liam through his guard and charges up a powerful attack. Liam remains cautious, watching Zeke's attack through a gap in his block. Zeke dashes forward with the charged punch, generating a shockwave before even making contact. Liam easily ducks beside it, pushing Zeke's hand aside. 3 rings shoot out from the attack. Zeke is surprised Liam dodged it, saying, you shouldn't even be able to see ether with your eyes. Everybody here has some insane sixth sense. Liam seizes the opportunity, grabbing onto Zeke's arm and waist. As Liam spins, he screams, I'm going to throw Zeke. But instead, he feels a sharp pain in the back of his head as Zeke knees him in the skull. Zeke grabs Liam's arm and, with his heightened senses, moves in slow motion, attempting a flying armbar and transitioning into a triangle choke. However, due to their size difference, Liam remains standing. Liam starts coughing, and Zeke says, "No matter how strong you are, you can't do much without oxygen in your brain." Suddenly, Zeke feels a sharp pain and spits up blood as Liam unleashes a flurry of blows. Zeke says, "If you want to struggle, I'm more than down to do it." Both Zeke and Liam's eyes are filled with determination. Zeke tightens his grip on Liam's throat as Liam keeps punching him repeatedly. Both fighters refuse to give up. Some students watch in fear, while one seems to enjoy the intense battle. Even Pan Mark can't look away. Eventually, Liam's hands go limp, and he passes out. Zeke is left standing, covered in blood from the beating he took. A female student, who was enthusiastic about the fight, says, "I expected at least this much from him. It'll be worth taking him down." She doubts Zeke will be allowed to fight again after such a brutal match. Later, Decker asks, "I heard Zeke was injured. Is he okay?" Zeke says, "Yes." Decker asks, "Is it okay if I check your pulse?" Zeke realizes Decker wants to see if he's awakened his aura and size, saying, "Wait a bit." Zeke extends his hand, and Decker thanks him. As Decker feels Zeke's pulse, a blue aura flows through his veins. Decker is surprised, asking, "Are you a blue knight?" Zeke explains, "When checking someone who's awakened, you usually just check their dantian. But you're being really thorough. Viewing someone else's aura is tough, and controlling it precisely like this means you're a blue knight." Zeke adds, "Not all knights are the same. Knights are ranked based on their fighting skills and aura control." Zeke explains, "White swordsman is the beginner level, usually kids before the blessing rite. Yellow swordsman is when you've awakened your aura and opened your dantian." He adds, "All cradle trainees become yellow swordsmen after the blessing rite. Once you master aura control, you're considered a knight." Zeke continues, "Purple knight is when you can infuse your sword with aura. Blue knight is when you can create an aura blade. And then there's the red knight level, which transcends normal limits." Zeke mentions that Liam, the mercenary king, and he himself had reached this level before his regression. Zeke mentions, "There's also the Black Knight, but they're extremely rare, with only a few on the entire continent." He wonders why Decker, skilled enough to be a commander, is babysitting him. Zeke thinks to himself, "It doesn't matter, since he can't detect my ether, only 2 people in the world can use that." Decker releases Zeke's hand, asking, "Are you hiding something from me?" Zeke retorts, "Are you hiding something from me? You seem suspicious." Decker didn't expect Zeke's quick turnaround. Zeke jokes, "Just kidding." Decker presses on, "Why did you change so suddenly?" Zeke responds, "Your question is wrong. You should ask why I've only changed now. Many more things will change from now on, as everything falls into place. All you need to do is follow me." Decker bows, saying, "I understand." He informs Zeke, "I've repaired the training room you requested earlier." Zeke responds, "I like that you're efficient." He waves Decker off, saying, "Take some time to rest." Zeke thinks to himself, "If Decker was ordered to watch me, I'll keep him close to get information out of him." He wonders, but who ordered him to keep an eye on me? Probably one of my siblings. Zeke arrives at the training room and looks around, saying, "This household really lives up to its name, it's huge." He decides to check the system and, upon opening it, notices something. "My slash is now proficient. I wonder if it leveled up because I used it." Zeke wonders, was the skill activated because of my actions? Did I have it before? If I learn something new, will it become a skill too? He's curious about the difference between a skill and a class skill, since they work similarly. Zeke is suspicious of the draconian skill, especially the points part. He clicks on karma points and learns that you can earn them by killing monsters. There are lots of monsters in dungeons, but I need to be at least a purple knight to get in. Zeke is more interested in why he traveled back in time and what this system is. The skill and class things seem related to that ancient relic, but I don't have enough information. Zeke decides to stop overthinking and focuses on getting stronger. He struggles to pick up a sword, saying, "I'll use this system as long as it helps me get stronger." Zeke doesn't care if he's exploiting the system or another Draker. He thinks about the two known powers in the world, aura, used by knights, and mana, used by mages. Knights strengthen their aura in dungeons, while mages control their mana through circles. These powers are mutually exclusive, so if you have one, you can't have the other. Zeke was unusual, unable to awaken either aura or mana. His household abandoned him, and he met his master during his homeless days. His master taught him many things, but the most useful was how to heal using Ether Hall. Through Ether Hall, my master's creation, I can harness nature's energy. Zeke and his master are the only ether users in the world. Zeke practices his swing with all his might. After a couple of hours, his hands are bleeding, and he says, "I feel like I'm about to collapse. I think it's okay to stop here." Zeke's class skills, healing and vigor recovery, activate, and his body starts to repair itself from the intense training. Zeke explains, "Healing is a rare skill I didn't know existed until I met my master. If others saw him use it, they'd think he's an irregular, which is why he couldn't use it during his fight with Liam." Zeke had to rush to heal himself in his room after the fight. Now that he's recovered, he'll continue training. That's my cycle: heal, train, repeat. As the sun sets, Zeke sighs, realizing it's already dinner time. He worries about what to tell Decker, considering the mess he made in the training area. The scene jumps to a week later, showing Zeke in the Cradle cafeteria. Some students gossip about Zeke's sudden change, wondering if he's learned black magic. Others hope he'll continue to humble the top students. In a separate room, a lavish feast is spread out, and Raina Turin, Zeke's cousin, is devouring the food, enjoying steak while the others eat simpler meals. A student, Owen, reminds the group to eat, saying, "You might not have an appetite, but you need energy for the swordsmanship duel." Leon, who's present, asks Owen, "Are you trying to piss me off?" Owen replies, "I was just being nice, but I guess your inferiority complex is that bad." Leon stands up, furious, slamming the table and causing Raina to drop her steak. She glares at him, annoyed. Jason asks, "What's the plan to deal with Zeke?" Owen replies, "The fight was intense, but when it comes to swordsmanship, Zeke will be pathetic. What can he do when he can barely hold his sword?" Leon tries to impress, saying, "I had to get a custom sword because the others were too heavy. It doesn't make sense that I'd lose to someone inferior." "I'm sure you saw it too, he only won because of luck." Raina looks annoyed, and Leon can't even meet her gaze. She tells him, "If you really think it was just luck, then you have no right to be a knight of the Draker household." She walks away from the table, leaving Leon looking embarrassed. Zeke explains, a sword duel uses real swords, which is why it's the main cause of incidents at the Cradle. It's also where you see the biggest difference in cadet skills. Panmark tells Zeke to step up. Zeke walks forward, carrying a large sword on his shoulder. Everyone laughs, asking, "What's with that giant sword? Are you trying to look stronger than you are?" Raina calls out to Zeke, and when he looks up, she's walking towards him. They meet in the middle, and Raina says, "I chose you specifically as my opponent." Zeke replies, "Good choice. I'm happy to accept your challenge." Raina looks at Zeke's sword, saying, "You're lifting that claymore easily. This isn't the Zeke I knew, who could barely hold a sword." Raina thinks to herself, is it because he's grown taller? His aura seems intimidating. She shakes off the feeling, reminding herself to focus before the duel starts. Zeke says, "As always, I'll do my best, but facing the Lightning Knight is nerve-wracking." He explains that Raina, the Lightning Knight, is a renowned warrior from the Continental Wars and one of the greatest upcoming Drakers. Raina awakened her aura before the blessing rite, but hasn't used it at the Cradle, saying she wants to improve her basics. Panmark signals the start of the duel, waving his hand down. Raina immediately charges at Zeke with a thrust. Raina's initial thrust is parried, so she quickly moves around Zeke and charges back in, taking the upper hand. She thrusts forward again, but this time Zeke can't parry and has to block it with his sword, sending him flying across the arena. Zeke manages to stop himself by leaning forward, but now there's a big gap between them. He realizes, she's better than I expected. But he thinks, it's still not enough. Raina attacks again, and the crowd starts yelling, "Stop toying with him." Jason asks, is that dude an idiot? Does he really think Reina is going easy on him? Now that Zeke understands Reina's style, he deflects her sword again. Reina says, while narrow, I sense gaps. But no matter how fast she moves, Zeke's sword meets hers, as if applauding her attempts. Right after, another gap opens, and Zeke seems to be guiding Reina, teaching her to improve her swordsmanship mid-duel. They clash, creating sparks, and Reina backs away, visibly exhausted. Zeke sighs, saying, this is how the Lightning Knight fought in Cradle. Her sword is honest, but it's expected from someone obsessed with fundamentals. He thinks that's what's holding her back. I'll help her break out. Zeke gets into a low stance. Reina wonders what he's planning, thinking, the only option from that stance is to close the gap. She warns Zeke, do your best. But Zeke has already closed the gap while Reina was thinking. He strikes downward, forcing Reina to step aside. She says, as long as there's distance, I can react to his movements. Zeke digs into the arena and swipes forward, causing Reina to backpedal. Debris from the arena hits her in the face, catching her off guard. When she looks up, Zeke has closed the gap and swings at her throat. Reina thinks she's done for, but Zeke's sword flies out of his hand instead. A blue aura appears, and Zeke's sword lands far behind him. The crowd says, we expected as much from Reina. She didn't even need to use her aura. But Panmark reacts differently, saying, the cadets were too slow to notice. Right as Zeke's attack closed in, Reina used a tiny amount of aura, barely noticeable. Panmark continues, she promised not to use aura until Academy, but Zeke forced her hand.